Welcome back to the channel. In this episode, keep your fingers crossed, we are going to finish this bike. So the theme of this bike has been simple and subtle, and we've been trying to harness that M look across the bike. So little touches of M color elements throughout, some M decals, and then of course we've got our massive amount of carbon, including our M package suite of things like rear sets, levers, etc. So we've still got a bit of work to go on the bottom fairing, some more M decals there, but other than that, it's starting to actually come along. And first up today, we're off to Moto Garage to get these tires changed over and something else pretty cool. So now we're at Moto Garage. We've got three pretty straightforward jobs to do here. We've got a set of Michelin TD slicks to go on this bad boy. We've got 255s at the rear and 120s at the front. So they are going on these beautiful carbon wheels. We've also got the replacement front disc. So one of our front discs, the one on the left side, was completely warped. So we got a replacement OEM Brembo front disc for that. So that's going on. A friend of ours was selling these Litec chain adjusters, which are a beautiful color of blue. And they really just add to the blue color that we've got in this scheme throughout this bike. So they're going on, and these are super easy to adjust. Now with the jobs all done at Moto Garage, those were probably the easiest jobs for this video. Next up, it's gonna get a lot harder because I've got to take all of the carbon pieces off the bike and start restoring it. And let me tell you, it's definitely not easy. So after stripping the bike down, I've basically got to focus most of my time on this belly pan because it's basically been broken in half. Now, my plan here is to make a strip through the middle where our decals are going to go, and I'm going to try and repair that as best as possible. So I've got this extra carbon twill weave, and what I'm going to use that for is plugging and replacing sections which are completely just missing. I'm then gonna lay that with a coat of resin, let that resin set, and then start sanding that resin back. Now that the fiberglass is actually just waiting to cure, and I don't even know if I've done it properly, I don't even know if that plastic kitchen wrap is gonna hold it. So I'm just gonna check it as it starts to cure and sort of just lift it up like this every now and then and just make sure it's actually holding and not burning straight through the plastic. So far, because it hasn't started curing, it looks like it's holding, and it's nice and flat, it looks nice and good. But what I thought I'd try now, because I've got to wait for that to cure, is I need to fix this angle of this piece here. I need to bring it back to there, and you can see it's got a crack right here. So I probably should have done this before I painted it. Lesson learned. I'll probably end up doing it again on one other bike though, but what I want to do is I want to try and heat it up on this side without heating it too much and just see if I can bend the plastic back. I don't think it'll work. I think if anything, I'll melt the paint on the other side, but it's worth giving it a go. That's actually working. So you can see both sides, there's distinctly a line through the middle here we're gonna have to do something with. And I've got a couple of ideas. You can see on this side it's straight through the middle as well. So What I'm thinking is we retain the carbon look along the bottom for around about 1.5 inches down here, and then up through here, we run the same decal like that, but just in small sections. So what that pretty much means is I can paint just outside the edge, black and black, and that means we get a nice consistent run of color. Now I just got to figure out how to do it. So it's not perfect, but once I smooth this all up, all the carbon's gonna flow nicely into a flat black. And then with the color, again, probably just through the middle here, maybe even just a little bit less, maybe just there, just on this piece here. Got a few options, let's get to it. Next up for this beauty, we have got a Moto seat cover. And this, well, it's got the red, white, and blue of the BMW logo, so it's gonna look pretty sick. But it's got a pain in the ass job. You've got to take all of these staples out of the original seat before you can actually put the new seat cover on. I could cheat and just put it over the top and staple it in place, but you would all know. So I won't. I'm gonna take every staple out painstakingly. I'm not gonna show you that process, mainly because I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna get my wife to do it. And yeah, let's get back to actually putting the seat cover on, that part. So this might look like it's really easy. So once the seat cover is on, we've got to staple it in place, but let me tell you, it is not. You've got to be quite methodical. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put probably 3 staples in here, and that'll hold it, and then I can stretch it properly and get it into the back corners. And just got to make sure you don't tear it at the same time. You probably need a few hands. Make sure you don't staple yourself. Again, fiddly work. I have a new appreciation for people that do this for a living. Quickly get a couple in around it just to support it so that it doesn't tear across that initial staple. You can see how the staple I put in first has already started to tear. That's how quickly it tears. So now that that end's in, it's got 3 staples holding it. I just want to make sure it's nice and straight. I can see there's a bit more white than there is here, so I want to try and move it across a little bit, manipulate it, and get it nice and even, because once I put it in place, there is literally no coming back. So that feels pretty straight. Something else I can do, and I've never done this on a bike before, but these are going to be very cool. You remember we did an ABS delete? Well, I've got Alpha Racing ABS, non-ABS brake lines. So these can go on now as well. As soon as I put these on, and again, we're still waiting for that hardener to dry, that body filler, I've also got to remove the faulty radiator. A new radiator, which should hopefully be arriving either today or tomorrow, because today's Monday and I need to get this bike dynoed on Thursday. So I need to get this radiator switched out as well. It's a big job. I probably won't film the whole thing, but basically it's not too hard to get it out, but it is fiddly. So I've just got to take all the hoses off, drain the radiators, decouple them so the lower one is no longer attached to the upper one, take any of these pipes out, and then once they all come apart, I've just got to get the line, so the clutch line has to come through this little hole here. So I've got to detach the clutch line, pull it back up through, take the cap off, take the spare reservoir off, take the pipes off this side as well, and then the radiator should just slide straight out. And I say should because shit never goes easy for me. So it's going to be a decent sized job, but it's pretty boring watching me replace a radiator. So I'm just going to sort of skip to the part where I rebuild that. But what I am going to do is get these brake lines on now, because these are going to be very cool. So let's get to it. Now I'm hoping this is as simple as it looks. It's got some extra, what are they called? The little thingamajigs, the copper washers, crush washers. So I should just be able to put it straight on. I mean, this should be really easy. Maybe I just got to zip tie it in place once it's on and job done. I just don't know which way around that goes. I think like that. Rear brakes are bled. Another job done. This is, I was going to say too easy, but something will go wrong, I guarantee you. Now, I said I would not film the radiator install, but we've had a setback and I feel like I need to be transparent. So let's just start by saying the radiator was delivered in a plastic bag. I mean, come on, an expensive part arriving in a plastic bag. What did they think was going to happen? Obviously, it's broken. So the clips which actually hold the radiator in place just here have actually broken. So they're of no good. So what I've done is I have taken my old radiator, unriveted the top part here, which actually holds it all in place, because that was fine, that was perfect. I've taken the 6 rivets out of the top, and I've got our new radiator. I've also taken the top part off, and I'm going to join the two together. I just hope I haven't drilled too deep into the top of that radiator in those holes just there. And fingers crossed, I'll take this over to Brett at Motor Garage tonight, and we'll see if we can marry those two back up, join them back up, make those bits love one another again. And fingers crossed we'll have that done, because I think that's something I really need to get done so I can feel like I'm getting some progress here. I have slowed down on the fairing. I'm going to give myself another day because I want to make sure it's perfect. I don't want to half-ass this job, because I think I'm going to need to lay probably another 2 or 3 coats of that body filler on once I sand each coat back. So the last thing I want to do is rush that, end up with patinas all through the actual base coat that I'm putting in there, because that section through there is going to be black. So I want to get this right. So let's get this radiator fixed, get the radiator back on, and then I'll get back onto the fairings, because Thursday night is quickly approaching for dyno. So we're now making some progress. Radiator is back on, so I wasn't going to film that because it's so easy. I've just got to hope that it doesn't leak, because I've got to hope I didn't drill too deep, before riveting back on. So I'm gonna run the bike up to temperature, make sure the fan runs, make sure it's not pissing out fluid everywhere. And when I come to our fairing, I've got to do another coat. So I'm going to fix up all these parts here. I'm going to put some more filler in. We're going to do a second round of filler and just see if we can sort of improve upon this look. There's some real rough sections I want to clean up. So that's the next job. That can dry overnight. And then fingers crossed tomorrow, what are we, Wednesday tomorrow, we should be all right just to put the bike back together in preparation for dyno on Thursday. Fingers crossed nothing else goes wrong. Made this one a little bit weaker just so it sets slower, so I've got more working time. So I probably won't go hard in the next few hours, which means tonight I'm hanging up the gloves as soon as I put this on. And I know what some people are saying, I should be using a proper applicator, but that's for amateurs. And yes, I'm putting it on really thick, and there's a reason, so I don't have to do it a million times. So if there's one thing I've learnt in this whole bike building process after what, 10 bikes now, is that shortcuts in the build bite you in the ass at the end. And it also looks really bad for your channel too. So if you just constantly take shortcuts, people are going to start to pull you up on it. I have done it in the past. I'm trying not to do shortcuts these days. I'm trying to do a much better job. At the end of the day, I still want to be building bikes quickly, but I also don't want to be shipping crap bikes out the door. Job done. We'll see you tomorrow. Well, it'll just be one video for you guys, but for me, it'll be like a whole week. So, welcome to my life. Well, it was worthwhile giving it a go, but it looks like my radiator fix didn't work. It's actually leaking from one of the points. You can see it leaking down here. If I pull this off, you can see right there, fluids coming out of this very top point here. The other ones look like they're okay. I mean, there might be one right there where it's leaking as well. So these 2 points on this side are leaking. This is expensive. A new radiator, $1,468, unless I can find a second-hand one. Even so, I've now wasted my money on this one and waited 5 weeks to get it. We've got track day coming up, we've got dyno coming up on Thursday. Back to square one. So whilst I try and figure out this radiator problem, I've still got these 2 pieces of fairing where I've had to reapply the resin over the cracks. And then I've sanded it with 240. Now I'm just giving it a rub down, and you'll see that right there was fully smashed up before, and now that I've put new resin on it and I've gone over with 240 and roughly with 800 wet, it looks completely different. So now I'm going to wet it down again and go over it with 2000 and just give it a really good hand sand and just see if I can, 2000, it's been pre-soaked for about 20 minutes, and see if I can get that gloss to come back. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be a damn sight better than if I left it all cracked the way it was. And we may still polish this as well, so I can put polish on top to really bring that shine out. But look at that. Nice and shiny, almost looks like it's new. this is the last clip of me working on the bike. The bike is essentially done. Yes, I've got to put the new radiator on when that arrives. Yes, I've still got to finish off some of the clear coat on the fairings, but 10 minutes between coats, I've got time to talk to you. So next clip, when I roll to it in a few seconds, you're going to see the bike completed with all the bells and whistles and fully put back together and in its final state. Yes, we're still going to do a dyno and a couple of other things, but that's cool. That'll happen in due course. Ready? Now. Okay, so another bike pretty much finished. Well, it is finished and I couldn't be happier. Probably the newest bike I've built and probably the bike with the most amount of carbon I've ever built and probably ever will build. So next up for this baby is a dyno test. We're going to film that separately, and with any luck we're also going to be on track within 2 weeks at Sydney Motorsports Park on I think the 20th to 23rd of November. So if you're there, drop in and say hi. I'll either have this bike or the Panigale with me, but this bike's got a lot of stuff on it, and I really want to thank my sponsors. I want to thank Motor Garage and I want to thank Moto Mia Clean Ride Brisbane. You guys have been amazing throughout this build and it couldn't have happened without you. So yeah, onwards and upwards, on to the next build. If you're not already watching it, we've got a 2023 R1, so make sure you tune into that. We've got massive things happening for that bike and it's going to be epic. And I almost forgot, it wouldn't be a superbike build without doing a startup.